starting to think about planting seeds indoors and letting them grow for a couple of months and then place them outdoors when the growing season is warm enough. It's now late February and early March, and so I'm thinking about putting some seeds in pots like this. This is a seed tray. It measures about 10 inches wide and 20 inches long, and if you fill it with water and then you take some seed pots like this, which are already filled with a potting mix, and they also have slits on the bottom. I'll just put a cover on top of that and I'll show you the slits are on the bottom here like this, and if you put water here, the water will wick up or go through these slits and keeps the soil nice and damp on the bottom. I have done that in the past, and you put your pots in the tray like this, and it'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 of these mini pots. If you put them in here like this, you can grow your seeds, but you do have the problem sometimes of keeping the water, the bottom of the plants too wet, and also which might cause rot in the roots and also might cause mold. So another way, another method is called a wicking method, and what people have done is to take pieces of styrofoam like this and place it into the bottom of the tray. You still fill it with water up to a little bit below the top of the styrofoam, and then you take a wicking material and you place it on top of the styrofoam. Now this styrofoam I have bought at Home Depot, and this is the used for heat insulation, and a package of 6 of these, which are 14.5 inches wide and 48 inches long. A package of 6 is about $8. So I just cut them so that they would fit into the tray, which is 10 inches by 20 inches. You can also buy wicking material that's absorbent cloth that goes over the surface, and that'll wick up into your seed pots. So instead, what I did is I bought some washcloths from Home Depot, from Walmart's, and these washcloths were 18 in a package for $4. So it's a little cheaper than much cheaper than the wicking material that they sell commercially. So I've taken 3 of them like this, placed them over the styrofoam, and then overlapped it a couple of inches so that they could fold over and fold underneath the styrofoam. I've done the same on the other end. Now that gives me a base with the wicking material on top, and I can put the seed pots like this on top. Again, the problem with just the regular seed pot is that these slits won't wick up the water through the wicking material because it's not directly in the water. So what you might do instead is you might take and put some wicks into the pots like this. So I cut some little wicks out of the washcloths and just stuck them up through the slits into the soil, so that when these wicks are in contact with the wicking material below that is in contact with the water will wick into this, and then from here it'll wick up into the little seed pots and keep the soil nice and moist. So you could do that. The other thing you might do also is you might use the peat pots that will decompose directly in the soil once the plants have grown. You can then just break these up and put them right in the garden, the outside garden. But what the good thing about this is these are already absorbent, so you don't need any wicks. you can put this right directly on top of the wicking material, and the water will wick right up into these seed pots and keep the plants nice and moist. The other thing you might do also is, in order to keep the trays continually filled with water, you could put a siphon, a little 1/4-inch clear tubing from the tray into a watering tray outside, and I'll demonstrate that in the next slide. Now in this next segment I'm going to show how you might keep water at a certain level inside of the tray. And so what I've done is you could just have a reservoir of water outside the big tray, and this reservoir can be small or large. The larger it is, the more water it'll be able to transfer over to the plant trays. In order to get the water to go from the reservoir over to the plant tray, you can use a plastic tube like this in a siphon action. You fill this with water, put your finger on one end, and with your finger on one end the water will stay inside the tube. You would stick it into the water in the plant tray, then stick your finger with your finger on the end of the tube, stick your finger under the water in the reservoir, and then water will flow from the reservoir to the plant tray. In order to keep them stationary, I've taken a clothespin, a spring clothespin like this, and you can just put it on the tube like so, and similarly put one on the other end, and the clothespin will keep the tube in the water. Again, this is a smaller reservoir. This will last several days. However, you can use a larger reservoir and it would last probably several weeks. Just the tray by itself, you could also place a cover after you put in all of the peat pots like this. You can then just keep a dome over the top like this with water in the tray wicking up into the peat pots. The dome will keep the water from evaporating, and so water will come out of the bottom of the tray through the wicks into the peat pots, and then it'll evaporate and accumulate on the surface. Then it'll drip back down into the soil, and there'll be a continual stream of cycle of water back and forth here. However, some will evaporate, so this will last probably a week, even two weeks, with the dome nice and tight over the surface. So there's a lot of ways of conserving the water and lessening the amount of time you have to physically water the plants.